It is really my honor now to present and talk about our Global Citizenship Award. And I'm going to talk a little bit about where and when I met Unilever and got to know Unilever as a company. So I took office in a 5-year term as head of the United Nations World Food Program in 2007. And that is the agency charged with the kind of legal mandate in the global system. If 5,000 or more people are gathered and cannot find food, we intervene and we serve about 35 billion meals a year in all the places that nobody goes. War zones, disaster zones. And I had the luck that about 12 weeks after I took office, the price of food started to climb, and in 6 months doubled, the most rapid acceleration ever recorded, and the price of oil tripled. And we had about 140 million more people who could not even fill a simple cup with food a day. And on top of that, The Lancet published the first article definitively stating that if a child doesn't have proper nutrition from the time of conception to 2 years old, their brain and body will never recover. So their brains can be up to 40% smaller, and their billions of synapses will never form in their brain. And this really rocked my world because we were the frontline agency delivering food, and until that time, this little cup that we filled, which is on the table, I forgot to bring up, but simple little cup, it was all about kilocalories. And we really didn't know how to get the proper nutrition in there. I was at Davos that year, and I decided to do something radical. Ronnie, you mentioned that competitors don't sit together necessarily, don't praise each other. And I asked all the food companies that were there to come together and talked about these challenges. And I remember Paul Pullman was there, Indra Nooyi, the head of Kraft, Irene Rosenfeld. And we've got a senior strategist here from Mars. We have Pepsi here. We have others today. And Paul Pullman was there. And I said, is this challenge big enough? A world in which we see 240 million kids stunted and never having a chance to recover, that we could all come together to take on that challenge. And I remember Paul Pullman, who I didn't know at that time, he said, it's all hands to the wheel. And that started a movement that has changed global nutrition standards, has come to the front lines. I called Paul Pullman when I was in the front lines of the Sinai during conflict in the Middle East. And I said, people can't cook their food here. I'm panicked. I need something. I needed a nutrition bar. And he flew in people. We reformulated the nutrition package. They figured out what was needed. We made out of date something like a Fig Newton power pack with the nutrition enough to keep people alive. And Rashid, who was then the Minister of Economy in Egypt, we called him together. We got 40 food companies in Egypt to produce about 20 million of these bars, and it really prevented children from facing that kind of difficulty. I called Paul Pullman when we were going to Myanmar after the cyclone, and our packages of highly nutritious food were leaking on the plane. I said, Paul, what do I do? And he said, this is easy. I said, it's easy for you because you're a company that has all this intellectual property. We don't have it. He said, it's yours for humanity. And Unilever helped us deal with that. So I met Unilever on the front lines, and then I've seen Unilever go even further. And the day that Unilever and a number of big companies in the world announced that by 2020 they would only source sustainable palm oil, really the axis of the world shifted. There is nothing that governments can announce today more powerful than something like that, which goes all the way to the village level of the world and changes the way the world works. It affects the lives of millions. Unilever has declared it will cut its environmental footprint in half by 2020. It's gone out in the front lines to really declare this, but the thing that amazes me most is that Unilever truly believes this is about shareholder value. I'm not going to say more because I think the recipient of our award tonight, on behalf of Unilever, Kees Kruythoff, will talk about his experience with that. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a new Asia rising, and Unilever is deeply a part of it. We're very honored to present to Kees Kruythoff, the president of Unilever North America, the Global Citizenship Award to Unilever.
Thank you, Josette, and thank you to the Asian Society. I must say, I probably have seen that movie already over 100 times, and I don't know what about you, but I continue to have good goosebumps out of it. I'm a father of 4 daughters, and every time is that I see this, I see how privileged we are and how wonderful it is to actually to give back to the next generation and to give back to society instead of to live on society. And I think it's, this is the theme, what we deeply believe in at Unilever. And first of all, we thank, and we are deeply honored to get this Global Citizen Award. And I think it's our long, long legacy and history which we already have in Asia, which ties us up very deeply to the Asian society. We have already businesses in Indonesia, in India, for over 80 years. We have a market capitalization both in Indonesia and in India, which is above 20 billion, because those two are listed companies. At the same time, in Myanmar, we already have a business for over 80 years. And so what you see is that we are deeply ingrained in the Asian society and in the emerging world. And we believe is that indeed, by being completely integrated in those societies, that is the way to indeed to be part of society. And if we look at what we currently have, is already almost 60% of our total global business is in the emerging markets. But by 2020, we think is that 75% of our global business will indeed be in the emerging markets. And the ultimate what we try to do is to double this business, but we want to do it in a new way, in what we call the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan way. And as I said, that is giving back to society instead of living on society. And I think is that this Lifebuoy film is actually a very good example. Because what we see is that those brands, those products which actually have a purpose, who give to society, they grow faster. And so ultimately this is a growth model. It delivers back to society, it delivers shareholders value, and at the same time, it delivers an incredible engagement of all our employees. And so it is not only a growth model, but it is also a heart model, where we truly and genuinely are connecting all different parts, whether it is society, whether it is our own employees. And Lifebuoy is a good example, and there's many, many of these examples, that through these purpose-driven brands is that we drive growth to double our business with halving our environmental footprint, and indeed with 100% sustainably sourced products. Dove is a good other example, and I don't know who of you have seen the Dove sketches. 170 million people have seen the Dove sketches. And it's another brand with a point of view who tells to all women around the world is you're more beautiful than you think. And in that way, we have a very clear, and we make sure, is that indeed beauty is not a source of anxiety in the world, but a source of confidence. And so I want to thank the Asian Society for recognizing this. I'm deeply honored to receive the prize, and I think it is to all our employees who are so passionate about how we want to run this business. Because ultimately, we believe that this is how we create the best business and the best where we touch 1 billion better lives. And we have another example, and we want to give you also with a little present when you go home. It's called the Wonder Bag. And the Wonder Bag is exactly what Josette just said. It is giving nutrition and real good food. And this was a social entrepreneur who created this invention in Africa, where this is truly a wonder bag, because this bag indeed, is a simmer where it creates truly nutritious food. But indeed, it's that it is less water intensive. The carbon footprint is actually, because you don't need the wood for it, it actually halves the carbon footprint of the whole cooking. But most importantly, actually, the women in Africa who go out to get the wood, they are not exposed to potential rape and all those part of other consequences. And so again, I want to give this to you, the Wonder Bag. Every time that you think about this, think a little bit about a growth model, because we do this together with our biggest foods brand around the world, which is Knorr. And there you see nutritious food, where we actually create sustainable, nutritious food, and we help women in Africa. That is what we believe is the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan in action. That is what you have seen in the Lifebuoy film. And to make sure is that the simple act of hand washing has already made sure is that we have touched 100 million people around the world. And that is the way to prevent hygiene. Our founder founded the company to make hygiene a commonplace. And we are passionate to make sure is that we make sustainable living a commonplace. And in that sense, we're very honored. And so thank you to the Asia Society for this prize. Thank you so much.